1,000 rounds.
Hey, hi, and welcome. Alright, Q&A 130. I can't believe I've done that 130 of these already. It's kind of late at night, so I have to keep my voice down, so hopefully you guys can hear me well. And today's date is the 13th of October 2015, and for those of you joining me for the very first time, this is just me responding to questions and comments I get on various different videos. Sometimes people agree with me, sometimes people disagree with me. Always love to hear what you guys have to say. I've never censored my comments. However, I have a huge apology. I have to, if you posted any video or comments on any of my videos on October 13th, which is today, I done something really stupid accidentally. I had about 101 comments that I had to approve, and for some stupid reason, rather than hitting approved, I hit delete. Don't ask me how I did it, but when you check the box, it checks them all, and then you have the option of post or delete. And I don't know why I thought the error was over post and I hit it. So if you made a comment today making this video or on the 13th of October and you can't find your comment, oops, sorry, my bad. So I really apologize for that, because that's the first time I've ever done that. So right now I want you to envision the from the Muppets, the guy playing the piano, hitting his head against the piano. He's going stupid, I'll never get it. Oh, that's me today. So I'm really sorry for that. But anyway, let's just jump right into this. Not very long ago, I googled World War III updates, found your site. Oh, really? Cool. And have been watching your videos ever since. Just a couple of things for now. One common mistake is using the word troop, as it has the same meaning as soldier, i.e. saying 150,000 troops have been sent to Syria, when actually meaning 150,000 soldiers. A troop is a military term for a pack of soldiers acting in a group. Though you might thought you might like to know. Well, that's good. I didn't know that. So next one goes, I will try sending you a couple of bucks soon. Well, thank you. Best regards. Well, thank you very much. Next one goes, even if we were talking rebels, so what? Putin said in one of his speeches, Russia is going to protect their national interests. That is true. Again, Russia is calling NATO's bluff. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Next one goes, and again, right now there's a new rebel group. Well, there's no new rebel groups in Syria. This is CNN blowing bullshit up your ass again. Basically saying new rebel groups. I mean, there's 1,000 freaking jihadi groups or more in Syria, let alone new ones, right? So what they're saying is, we're arming this new group that we just found out of nowhere. But they are arming the Kurds, which again I think is going to be bad for Turkey in the long run. But again, has the State Department made any good decisions in the past 50 years? I don't think so. God, they can't even get that right? But anyway, yes, the weapons that were dropped off a couple of nights ago from the making of this video was 4 heavy lift transport airplanes, and it was 50,000 tons of munitions that they dropped off from 4 aircraft. And apparently it did get to the Kurdish fighters, but God knows where they're going to end up, because what happens is they drop it to the guys they want, but then those guys just hand it over to ISIS. Now, in the sense of the Kurds, no, they're not fighting Assad, but they are fighting ISIS. But that said, there's groups that are regionally in like small towns. Again, it's all tribal over there, right? The whole Middle East is tribal. You got thousands of tribes there, and there's a lot of small places that are fighting their own interest, right? They're fighting for. There's like one group that the U.S. is. Got on the terrorist watch list, and it's a union group that they got on a terrorist watch list, and they're giving them weapons. So it's like, but they're not fighting Assad, they're fighting ISIS. So there are groups and jihadi groups that are fighting amongst each other, but it just happens that ISIS is the main catalyst of groups, or the main glue the main jihadists together. So yeah. So anyway, yeah, there we go. Hi, I'm a viewer from Russia. I like your channel. And you are a good thinker. I have to say, there is no difference between Western people and us. We listen to the same music, watch the same movies, hard work, and buy nice stuff. Respect our ancestors and love our families. Russia has have difficulty history. We started like our European countries, but then with Asia, culture for many years. Got revolutions and got bloody civil war. WW2 for us is a great sacrifice. Millions lost their lives. I think something like 26 million in Russia died in World War II. Lost their lives, and it's hard to find family that don't have the oldest fourth in it. Today we live in a modern country and we are proud of our history. If Westerners thinks we are evil and our decisions are wrong, the funny thing is that we think the same things about you. My attitude to President Putin as a sportsman, for example, a football team playing well, then I am satisfied. If then it is time to change the player, if not, then it is time to change the player. Since I am satisfied with my current situation, work, income, social status, my team plays well, and hardly the view of the Western friends would change it. Uh, and P.S. Sorry for my English. Well, thank you very much, Sarah. I always like to hear how the other half lives. Again, if you're from any of these countries that I talk about, I'd love to hear from you. Everybody does, because it's nice to hear from the guy on the ground, right? But the thing is, yeah, you have to understand right now, the red terror scare is off the charts on not so much on Canadian media, but on American media. They take every stab they can at Russia. They're trying to make Russia the new villain, right? And again, I have issues with Putin. Don't get me wrong, but if you look at all sides of it, yeah, Putin has been a hell of a lot better than Boris Yeltsin. Yeah, a good time. He was a good player change, so to speak. But that said, like Putin could probably lighten up on, say, protests. Granting people the right to protest a little more without those stupid permits. Now, mind you, we have, like we have permits here in the sense of zoning when you're going to have your protest, where you can have it just so the police can be out there. But you can you can go out there and protest. You can protest anywhere if you're not blocking traffic or whatever. You can protest here in Canada, no problem. Where the problem comes in is if you're going to take up like the whole street, then you need to kind of zone out just so nobody gets run over. So it's a safety issue, but it's never an issue of, okay, well, what is it you're protesting? What's your content or anything like that? So that type of stuff, yeah, Putin could call it. If he were to relax on that, his approval rating would go even higher. Obviously, Putin isn't Stalin or Khrushchev, so yeah, you guys got a lot better than what you did, a couple of generations before. But that said, like all the leaders in the world have failed the people in a lot of ways. But the reason why Putin is gaining such popularity is he does kind of stand up for Russia quite a bit. So yes, he's ultra-nationalist, and it's kind of funny how in the Western media that they paint Putin as a real demon for being nationalistic to his country. Which, if you look at Obama, for example, Obama's ashamed of his country. It's like, oh, we're not that exceptional. We're not this. We're not that. You know what? If you're a politician, okay, and politicians lie anyway, right? You go out there and you always tell your people you are the best at everything. You always tell your people this is the greatest country on earth. Why? It's a morale booster. Even if it's not true, you tell them that anyway. Why? Because it shows that you have dedication to your country. And for me, when I say I love Canada because it's the best country on the planet, I actually mean it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. But then again, I heard like from a Syrian refugee in one of the reviews or interviews, right, that they just wanted to go back to Syria because it was the greatest country in the world. They had technological advancements, and they were this and they were that. And I guess I get the feeling it's the same everywhere. Everybody thinks they live in absolute utopia in comparison to everybody else, right? So it's just kind of an interesting thing. But here's something you won't hear on Western media. There's a lot of interview from refugees. You'll get the odd one, and the only ones you can get is ones that are bash Assad. But if you look all over YouTube, very few of them bash Assad. Most of them are blaming NATO and ISIS for their leaving, right? So yeah, the difference is years ago, before the breeding of the internet, so to speak, the beginning of the internet, there was really no way to counter the propaganda. Now you can counter it on a daily basis. You can say, okay, well, yeah, you're saying this here, but we've got footage that tells different, that type of thing. So anyway, that's pretty good. Next one goes. Why the hell would Ukraine Air Force attack a passenger plane? You're a Putin lover if you think Ukraine did it. It was the separatists and the Russians provided the weapon. It has nothing to do with politics, obviously. Who did it? Get your facts straight before you do your video. I get it. Yes. Look, I was looking at the Buk missile. I can't speak today. The Buk missile system. Russia just came out and did a test with that same missile against the same type of aircraft on the ground. They got it on RT today. Go watch it. If you look at the damage from that missile, yes, I now know that that variant of missile actually can blast the shrapnel out spiraling sideways. So that explains why the missile was beside the airplane instead of behind her with the warhead. So yes, okay, they've proved that. But there's another problem that I noticed: the damage in the Russian test at replicating the they said that the missile was XYZ meters away, like a meter or 3 meters away from the cockpit when it blew, but the damage on the Russian test is greater. So that still leaves me to believe that something's not right here. Now, maybe there could have been a problem with the missile or something like that on MH17. I don't know. We're never going to know the truth. But there's so many things that don't add up, and we're never going to know the truth. I think it was a double whammy. I think the Ukrainian pilots were shooting at it when they detected a missile launch. When you detect a missile launch in an aircraft, and there's an aircraft up ahead that lost communication, you can't communicate with that. It is plausible that both sides shot it down. Okay, picture this is the scenario I'm painting. I have nothing to base this on other than just it makes sense. MH17. Let's go through what happened. It gets into the Ukrainian airspace. The Ukrainians put it on the flight path. Okay, they tell them to lower their altitude down, like from 36,000 down to 25,000 feet or whatever it was. They do this. Somewhere over the kill zone, they lost communication. How did they lose communications? That nobody's explained yet that I'm aware of. Maybe somebody did, maybe somebody didn't, but they lost communications. You had two Su-25 Frogfoots in the area, very close. At first, they were about 15 kilometers behind, which is about just a little under 9 miles, or around 9 miles behind. And then next thing you know, there was a day before there was an aircraft shot down in the area, and I think 2 days after another Ukrainian airplane shot down the area. So I'm assuming that the Berk missile system, okay, which was a Ukrainian missile system, they got them in 2010 or 2011. They've been there. The Ukrainians lied, said no, we never had this missile system, but they actually did. It's just they may have lost it to the rebels. Okay, so the ground crew probably detects this airplane. Whether they tried to hail it or not, who knows? But the thing is this airplane was incommunicado. There was no way for anybody to communicate with this. Which, if you're, basically a SAM site operator, you're going to assume this is a Ukrainian intelligence airplane. Most likely, they fire the missile. So, for Frogfoot pilots probably closing in on this airplane that can't communicate, probably what happened, detected the missile launch, figuring that, okay, well, this thing's far, 3 kilometers ahead. Maybe they're thinking there's a missile coming at them. They open fire. Missile hits just at the time the underbelly of the aircraft gets trapped by 30 you got 30 millimeter darts going and ammunition going either way. So to me, I think it might have been a double whammy. That's my take. Will it ever be proven? Who knows? And the propaganda is already out there on both sides, so we're never going to know. Unfortunately for the victims, we're never going to know what happened, and that has nothing to do with Putin love. I always find it funny when people can't be objective at all. It's like, again, I'm looking at the Russian tests, okay, and they're right there. You can watch it. Look at the damage on that, and then look at the damage. Okay, granted the damage on MH17, you have impact damage and all that shrapnel. But just look at the shrapnel damage. It's much greater on the Russian one, meaning that there was, when you look at the damage on MH17 right below the cockpit window, the pilot's window, it looks like a smaller concentration of fire. And then underneath the belly, it looks like the missile actually hit the underneath of the belly. Because again, these things are like shotgun shells. They blast to completely obliterate the airplane and turn it into Swiss cheese, right? So that's just my take on it. But as far, like, again, I have my issues with Putin too. But we want to stay factual as much as we can. We can speculate, on the stuff that we can't prove, and go from there. So that's my take on it. That's what I've said. I haven't wavered from that. There you go. Anyway, thanks for the comment. Anyway, next one goes, are you sure you haven't got miles per hour mixed up with kilometers per hour? The Westland Lynx just does over 200 miles per hour, and it's a lot quicker than the MIL-35. Well, I know the Hind 24, which is the predecessor to it's basically the MIL-35 is a Hind 24 modified. A few differences, such as it has two twin 30mm cannons side mount versus the 12.5mm Gatling gun in the front. But yeah, Westland Lynx I think held the record at just a little over 250 miles an hour. The pilot nearly ripped the rotors off of it, but he did it. But no, the Hind 24 was 230 miles an hour, 239 miles an hour was his fastest recorded speed. Its combat speed might be a little bit slower. The KA-52 does about 212 miles per hour, and the KA-50 does about the same, which is the black shark and the alligator, right? Quite impressively fast when you think how fast those helicopters are. I don't think they do that under combat load, but you know, in a shallow dive, wind at your back type of thing. Nonetheless, all these machines are pretty impressive for what they are. And I know that's one of my main commenters there, so thanks for that. But no, I meant miles per hour. Yep. And next one goes: if Obama is the Antichrist, Putin is the anti-Obama. Again, there's people on both sides of the camp, I guess. So is what it is. Next one goes. Okay, next one goes. There is a big difference in supremacist ideology today. Nazism and National Socialist Party. The people who should know by now, the official narrative in every war, from World War I to present, is written by the victors. Yes, history is always written by the winners. That's true. I suggest people look into World War II revisionist history and get a better idea of what really happened. Well, like anything, we're never ever going to know the 100% truth on anything when it comes to stuff like that. The reason being is to me, quite simple. You've got, you know, basically, sums it up the best. History's written by the winners. So you have to make the other guy look as bad as possible to justify your war, right? And yeah, anyway, yeah, next one goes. There is no free Syrian army, question mark. For 40 million in tax dollars to convert, it was actually 500 million in tax dollars to convert 4 to 5 terrorists. Fact. Yeah, man, those must be some super soldiers. They must be right out of DARPA or something like that. Terminators would say, 50 million bucks for. And here's the thing: the official thing is 4 or 5 terrorists. 4 or 5 jihadists that they try. It's not even a solid 4 or a 5. It's 4 to 5. They're not sure. 50 million dollars, and they're not sure if it's 4 or 5. Oh my god. Anyway, U.S.-led ISIS coalition, exact words. That was what Obama said, yes. Now, I don't know if he was saying ISIS as slip of the tongue, but who knows. ISIS, Blackwater, ISIS. Simple's what Russia has done is legal. With international law lawful, what America and the axis of evil is doing is illegal against international law and unlawful, even. Yeah, that's true. Yes, the Russians did go to the UN, and they got approval, and Assad invited them into his country. So anyway, yeah, that's good. Reg, greetings from New Jersey. Can you please make a video about Chinese tensions and how the U.S. Navy announces that they are going into the 12 nautical mile limit? Thanks, man. When you visit New York, sure to contact me. Oh, cool. Well, thank you. Yeah, they're really pushing again another offensive in China. They're saying we're no longer going to recognize China's boundaries, and we're going to push into that. So again, who is provoking the war here? Like it is. Oh well, we can't let China, put their supremacy out and dictate to the region or whatever. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? Like, you see it for what it is. It is what it is. I can imagine the sailors and stuff like that. I know the soldiers are pretty patriotic and stuff like that, but they have to know what's going on at this point. Yes, okay, well, why are we in their waters? If war breaks out, okay, and you're in somebody else's waters, who provoked who? Warships surrounding China, and mind you, what they really want, again, it comes down to the goal is to have Russia or China shoot first. But the thing is we're deliberately putting people in harm's way. Think about like an Eisenhower aircraft carrier, right? You got 5,000 or 8,000 people on that thing. And because those things are going to need to be decommissioned soon, it's cheaper to kill everybody on there and sink the thing to the bottom of the ocean in a war somewhere. Why would you bring an aircraft carrier into, like, say, the Strait of Hormuz? It's a turkey shoot. Why would you bring them into the Black Sea? Warships into the Black Sea. It's a turkey shoot. A case in point, Russia warships in Caspian Sea firing cruise missiles 1,500 miles. or 1,500 kilometers, 900 miles, and you're going to put them in a kill box? Like, can you not say setup? And the worst is they're going to make it look like it's such a tragedy, but it was so tactically avoidable. You keep your ships as far off the coast as you can. Why? Because cruise missiles. I mean, the Chinese, it's not like they don't know the Chinese have massive amounts of rocket forces, basically cruise missiles, anti-shipping missiles, Dongfang 41, Dongfang 21, Dongfang 11, Dongfang 31, all these things that are designed to take out aircraft carriers and other ships, from almost 1,000 miles away. But yet, they want to be right in those coastal waters. Like, if I'm a commander of this ship, I'm sitting there thinking, hey, I want to get as much space from this area too as I can, because I'm in a kill box. Like, you're setting them up for disaster purposely. Next one goes, the migrant crisis has reached humanitarian proportions and need global attention. It is high time African leaders join the rest of the world in fighting solutions to this migrant solution, which affects so many of their people. Please watch this video and join the call for global, including African solution. Well, the Polish, I don't know if it was the Prime Minister or one of his state guys or whatever, said something very interesting. He says, everybody's bashing our country right now for not letting in a whole bunch of people. And he says, we're a Christian nation, so we're only going to take in Christians. But he goes, the thing is rather than flooding people into Europe and stuff, he says that doesn't solve anything. It's these nations need to build themselves up. It's the same like South America and all that. You take third world people, you flood them into the first world, you just make a third world country. How about you help these people, if you can't help these people to get themselves going? But there's a reason why these people, the countries aren't hellholes because of the land and the trees and birds and the rocks. It's hellholes because the people haven't built it up into something good. And yes, you can give them a head start on that. And some countries will prosper, some simply just will not. But the thing is does that mean you should completely throw away your values and your chartered rights just to accommodate people that you can't help anyway? You know what I mean? Like, yes, I get it. It's a crisis. A crisis is a crisis. But nobody on the mainstream media, not even in Europe, not in Canada, not in the United States, is talking about the one thing that caused this crisis: U.S. foreign policy. It's a death and debt basis policy. Next one goes, you are right, my friend, but there have been many other issues related to the clashes of culture in Europe, especially things like not being allowed to raise national flags, but the burqa not the problem. Politicians have lost the people allowing Sharia law in the UK, child sex grooming, and the list goes on and on. The democracy is a sham, and I am not a racist as well. Not racist. We all bleed the same color blood, but I am a cultural. But I am a culturalist. Plotist wanted us forego our own acquired European cultures that a couple of thousand years to achieve and change it in a decade, and accept that believes in atrocities, marrying children in 9, chopping your heads off, and just having general appetite for destruction, and no such thing as equality for people in Europe, and are fuck off with the proper. Then there's the World War III scenario. America and my own country leaders have a lot to answer for, and when this WW3 has played out, who the bleep do these leaders think we're coming for them? Their glass thrones will be shattered, I promise. Well, that's true. Yeah, let he without sin cast the first stone, right? So, yeah, there we go. Israel is surrounded by hostile countries. Why don't who don't want peace with Israel? They only want to finish it off. So I have a lot of sympathy with Israel. However, I don't support the idea of taking down Assad. He is about the most moderate leader in the Middle East. Exactly. But you have to understand, the reason why Israel wants to get rid of Assad is because they want to attack Iran. But the thing is, it's going to be their own demise. Assad would probably have never attacked Israel in a million years. And he probably, again, there's no saints there. You have to run the Middle East with an iron fist. Heck, the Pope would have to be as bad as Stalin just to keep the Middle East from burning apart. It's easy to sit back and say, oh, these guys are dictators. But when you consider what they're up against, thousands and thousands of tribal regions and thousands of possible jihadis, yeah, you're going to run it with an iron fist. Saddam, not a saint, but stability in the region. Gaddafi, not a saint, but stability in the region. Assad, not a saint. His dad, not a saint, but stability in the region. And yeah, you're probably correct. Syria is probably the most moderate out of them all. The problem Israel's going to have, and here's my thing on Israel. Yes, Israel bash a lot. I bash Zionism because it's a supremacy movement. It's bad. But I bash all supremacy movements because they always get us into these stupid messes in the first place. Where I do support Israel, for example, if Hezbollah, now that Hezbollah has tanks, when they roll tanks towards Israel, and they will, Iran won't be beside them. I doubt it. The Iranians won't be beside them, and neither will the Syrians. But chances are, I'm pretty sure they will have safe passage through Syria and Iran out of retribution to Israel for destabilizing Syria, right? And payback's a bitch. You call it blowback, whatever you want to refer to it as. But I still believe, yes, the Jewish people will have the right to defend themselves in their own country. That's why they walk around trained. They got, basically mandatory service there. They are well trained, and I do understand the saying does kind of hold true. If Palestine puts down their weapons for a day, there'll be peace in Israel. If Israel puts down its weapons for a day, there will be no Israel. So I do get that. But on the other hand, they've got lots to answer for. So what comes around goes around. If you go around kicking hornets' nests, you're going to get stung. And sure, if they want, they want nationalism for themselves, fine. Nobody calls out Israel as racist and bigot for sticking up for their nationalism. Just everybody else, right? So in Europe and Canada and the United States. But the thing is, yeah, every country has a right to defend itself, sure. But that also doesn't mean Israel has the right to preemptively strike people either. And that's where they're going to get the blowback, is because they have done strikes in Syria. They have done things to Iran. They have knocked off Iranian politicians and stuff. They do shoot kids on the Gaza Strip. It's insolvent. So it's either they're going to have to genocide every Palestinian that comes towards them. But, again, they're 8 or 11 million people, and they've got basically the Middle East is 1.6 billion Muslims. They're kind of screwed, don't you think? But yeah, they can hold their own. But the thing is they got to stop provoking the people around them too. I know people say, yeah, but the Palestinians do this. If they were just dealing with just the Palestinians, they could eventually work that out or come to a stalemate or whatever. But the thing is what knocks out Israel is not the conflict with the Palestinians. It's going to be the conflicts with Saudi Arabia, eventually Turkey, Jordan, Syria, Iran. Eventually, these guys are all going to turn on them, right? Libya, like all these jihadist groups that are coming out of there. It's not going to be the governments that are going to overthrow them because they're all working together. But the jihadist groups will destroy Israel. They're done for. They're not going to exist in 10 years, I doubt it. Maybe I'll be wrong, but if they do, it'd be by the bullshit luck. That's the only way. They got too many enemies. This one goes, the EU is not dead and done. It is very secure in its power. The immigrant invasion is part of their plan to consolidate. They are trying hard to break down the nation states. The main weapon is this multiculturalism, aside from planned economic ruin, i.e. the annihilation of indigenous and national cultures. In other terms, the same thing. No one has left the EU, no one will. It's Hotel California. Well, yeah, globalists don't give up. Their ability to make people suffer is pretty obvious. Yeah. Yeah, so next one goes. It can't be racist and are saying white slaves. This never happened. We are white. We are Irish. And yes, it did happen. And to the American and Australian and the Caribbean islands, don't be idiots. Yep, it's true. It happened. Everybody was a slave at one point, I guess. Next one goes. Get real, dummies. Russia just offered Egypt $2 billion in the line of credit while they are hurting for cash due to sanctions. Putin has unspoken secret agenda, namely one, set the conditions for prolonged shooting war between Israel and their neighbors, similar to the meat grinder of Stalingrad. House of Houses shooting that broke house to house shooting that broke the back of the German army for Israel small and cannot afford to bleed. 2. The survivors must be then returned to Egypt, the land of their nativity. They will be judged and punished there. And 3. Someone rise in the United Nations and announce that, hey, God. There is no God up in the sky. If there were, then why didn't he come to save the modern Israelites? Where in the hell is he anyway? Reference to Psalms 79 6 to 10 star 11 star, Psalms 102 3 to 5 13 to 20, Hosea 11 to 5, Micah 7 to 12 to 16, Jeremiah 2 to 3 1, and 5:12, 23 to 7, and 16 to 22, Habakkuk 2 to 9 to 17, Isaiah 33 10 to 12, and it seems slow. Well, wait for it. It will come for a certain now time and trouble on earth like there never has been before, and humans put God in the test. Haha. Don't forget, communism is a religion that promises peace, but in reality eliminates all other religions. That's true. And what better place to destroy religion than to destroy the religious place Israel and put God himself to the test? You know, that's kind of an interesting kind of little philosophy you've got there. How do we prove God is here, and if there's a God or whatever? Ouch! I really, yeah, that would be the ultimate test of faith. Okay, well, let's destroy Israel and we'll start the Battle of Armageddon, and then we'll know for sure. That doesn't sound like lunacy, does it? Oh my God, I laugh, I cry. This is the world we live in. Yeah, yeah. And if I were to sit down, you know, sit down beside God and have a cheese sandwich and something, just shoot the breeze with him, I'd probably say, "Why did you make us so damn crazy?" And he'd probably just giggle and say, "Why? Because that's what I do." I said, I said, "You just wanted to be amused, right?" And he'd probably say, "Yeah, God, know him well." But yeah, like I say, this whole biblical thing. Now, mind you, every year, every day, we're living in the end times, according to the Bible, right? So you go back 200 years, 400 years, 1,000 years, we've been living in end times prophecy every year since forever, right? So you got to take that with a grain of salt too. It doesn't mean now's the end times. Like it's always now's the end times, but maybe it's not. Who knows? We won't know the date and time, right? That's not how it's supposed to go, right? It'll just happen when it happens. Now that said, am I a huge devout Christian? No, my faith is not categorized by it. I think I'm more of a spiritual type of person, more aligned with like native beliefs type of thing. But it doesn't mean I disbelieve that there could be something. To me, there is a lot of coincidences to the Bible. Maybe they were technically history books of some sort. I think a lot of these Bibles are meant to be worked together, and plus they keep finding new stuff. But they're also finding a lot of stuff. For example, Sodom and Gomorrah, where they kind of believe Sodom and Gomorrah was. They found that because Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed by basically ash and brimstone, right, or fire and brimstone, right. Well, they found this ash all over the place, which basically like charcoal, and yeah, the place was destroyed by fire. So I'm thinking there is a lot of historical accuracy in the Bible for sure. It's just the the mythological side of it, or the what's the word I'm looking for? The divine side of it. That's where people, I think, probably take issue with it. So for me, I say, well, I don't believe it or disbelieve it. I take everything with the same frame of mind. Uh, you know, there could be. I don't like an atheist. I think takes the most faith. That's the most hardcore faith on the planet. Say, well, you have to show me absolute proof on everything. Well, sometimes you can just draw a conclusion, like the whole CERN project, going with the Hadron Collider, proving the Big Bang Theory. But then they kind of say, well, something can't kind of come out of nothing now, can it? Or can it? But that's the thing is, we still, even with the Hadron Collider, something has to create that energy. Where did it come from? Who knows? Recently, and I haven't got it. It's just because things have been going so crazy in the world right now. I haven't had a time to make my video on Mars. I don't know if you guys know about the water found on Mars, or perceived salt water running on Mars, and the Stonehenge thing that was found on Mars. Yeah, maybe the basically our sister planet could have been Mars. Maybe Mars thousands and thousands of years ago, or millions of years ago, was a habited planet by people. You say, oh, that's impossible. That's impossible. Well, okay. Let's just draw a hypothetical here. Think of where we are technology now. If we really put our minds to it, okay, and say, okay, never mind the money, everybody's just going to donate everything for free, we're going to Mars, screw it. We could probably have somebody on Mars in 2 years. Guaranteed. We could have the ship built, everything ready to go. They're already working on it, but right now because everything's got to be so safe. But if we just said, okay, we're just going to keep sending ships there until we get there, we're at the point where we can actually, we're at the edge of it. It's not a matter of do we have the technology. We have the technology to get to Mars. We have the technology to colonize space. We have that technology now. It's just what holds us back is it's slave to a monetary system. We don't live in a kind of utopianistic Star Trek kind of theme right now, but we do have the abilities to travel to the stars. We have that right now. So think of an ancient civilization that had that but got destroyed, which is some of the theories of Mars, how Utopia and I forget the other one. There's a battle between two groups on Mars, which left. Basically they destroyed the entire planet. But maybe it was kind of like a bit of a planet Krypton kind of theory, where when Jesus came, if you the Old Testament, when he came down from where he came from, it kind of sounds like he came from another planet, right? And it who knows? We don't know. We don't know. I love stuff like that. It's fascinating. But I guess we gotta move this one along. Oh, geez, the time flies fast on these. All right, next one goes. A pair of well-placed neutron bombs would radiate 90% of these vermin, although the chickens and dogs and rats would also be instantly killed in the high neutron flux. The buildings wouldn't even be damaged. Let God sort them out. Give them 72 bunches of the buried grapes. Haha! Didn't they ask for that? Yeah, obviously sarcasm, but there are people out there that think nuking the Middle East would be a good idea, but they don't realize radiation goes everywhere. It's a bad idea. Neutron bombs are worse than hydrogen bombs. Hydrogen bomb level cities, sure, but neutron bombs just irradiate things so badly. But anyway, next go. Listen, suckers. American army was defeated 3 times: Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iraq. For the Russians, they would be fucked to by the Afghan. You guys are cowards face-to-face fighting. Use the Top Gun technology against poor people to steal their lands and resources. Give them names. Terrorist, buddy. You are the fucking terrorist. You bloody history's all over your face. You are, and for you, the video guy, go fuck yourself and continue masturbating on the porn sites. Okay. Well, thanks for that comment anyway. Yeah, like I say, sometimes people agree with me, sometimes people disagree with me. But there is some validity to what he said there, to taking people's lands and stuff like that. And that's kind of technically what we're doing, right? Next goes, the Free Syrian Army is not a proxy group for the US and Syria. They are not US puppets. We support their aims, overthrowing Assad. That alone does not make them US proxies. The narrator seems to think that once group is using weapons, US weapons, they are American proxy. Then in World War II, Russia and all the Europeans were American proxies. Okay, here's where, let me spell it out to you. Okay. How's the best way to put this? Because you have to understand what it is. The proxy is this, okay? ISIS or Free Syrian Army is there. CIA takes money. Okay, this is Joe Biden's words. Okay, they take money, they give it to the Saudis. The Saudis buy weapons, which are mostly Russian-made, but now they're starting to go, U.S. domestic. Okay, they take those weapons, they send them to Libya. From there, they hand them over to the Free Syrian Army. Okay, so yeah, you got me right, sure. But here's the problem: as soon as they get into Syria, they fight alongside Al-Nusra Front. Okay, which is Al Qaeda and other jihadis, and they say, "Give us your weapons," or or else. So what does the Free Syrian Army do? They hand over their weapons time and time and time and time again. They just basically pass these weapons along to the ISIS guys. Then they go back and they get more weapons. Then they come back in. Then they pass the weapons over. And it goes and it goes and it goes. So if you haven't picked up on the pattern, and I mean, just think about it this way: ISIS has been, again, which is made up of several jihadi groups. Um, the thing is ISIS is an ideology. It's a one world caliphate that they want to put in, right? Sharia law everywhere. But basically, think about it: the ISIS group itself, okay, or that identify as ISIS, have been the luckiest jihadists in the world. They find warehouses in Syria with U.S.-made TOW missiles. Okay, and we know that the U.S. or Syria has never used TOW missiles. So where do they come from? How does a warehouse just magically appear in the middle of Syria, pretty much dead center middle of Syria, with U.S.-made TOW missiles? How's that possible? You know, uh, they find a warehouse full of brand dandy new U.S.-made M16s, and just happen to be lucky enough to be getting training on these M16s as well. $50 million goes into training only 4, possibly 5 Free Syrian Army guys. The rest unaccounted for. It just goes on and on. The ISIS guys get lucky enough to have 70 American-made Abrams tanks, 2,300 U.S.-made Humvee tanks, 150 artillery guns, 70,000 weapons, and there's, just as of today, there's another jihadist group. A jihadist, brand new picture, brand new M60, or not M60, I guess a 249 or M240 Bravo, brand spanking new, U.S. made. Okay, how did they get this? Oh well, they're handing them the weapons, i.e., proxy war. If you haven't figured it out, they're a proxy. They're a proxy. They're a proxy. They're a proxy. All the United States government talks about is overthrowing Assad. Oh well, we have to fight us, but we have to get Assad. They're more concerned about getting Assad than they are. And just listen to the rhetoric. They're more concerned about taking out Assad than they are ISIS. ISIS is the proxy weapon. They're making it look like they're fighting ISIS. Okay, sure, they arm that, like the Kurds, and they'll arm these guys, they'll arm that guys to fight ISIS. But the majority of those weapons end up in ISIS hands. So, again, the obvious conclusion is usually the right one. So, anyway, yeah, keep a couple of groups on the ground thinking that they're fighting for a noble cause when at the end of the day, you're arming both sides, right? War's a racket. Next one goes, we are all having hell of a time trying to arm them, but just because they carry American weapons does not make them an American. Okay, yeah, I read it. By the narrator's logic, any group in the world using an AK should be a Russian proxy, right? No, but you can't deny that the Russians have sold a lot of weapons in that area too. So, but the thing is that, again, it's openly admitted. It's openly admitted that there's a proxy war going on to overthrow Assad. So ISIS is not even, it's a secondary. They're just a bonus. They're just a bonus. So anyway, I know it's hard for some people to, and I appreciate the comment, but I know it's hard for some people to, accept that, because again, who wants to be the one arming these douchebags, right? But anyway, next one goes. Do you think gun culture is growing in Canada? If Canada's gets gun rights back, and if Canada's going to get the gun rights back, yes and no. We're never going to get much more than what we've got now. This is about as good as it gets, which, yes, granted, we're not too bad, but if the Thomas Mulcair government NDP gets in, I guess, next Monday from the making of this video, that means handguns will be banned in Canada, then possibly lever actions and pump actions next, and then after that, pretty much total gun ban. It might take a couple of years for them to do it all, but they will basically ban every gun in Canada. The Liberals, they might do it over a 10-year period if they can hold power. The Conservatives, they're not really pro-gun, they're just kind of pandering to votes, because they've had a majority government. They could have gotten rid of all this silliness, so they're not really pro-gun. They're just, if they can kind of string us along, we have no choice but to vote for Conservatives, but they're not really going to give us everything. So, yes, gun culture in Canada is probably even bigger than that in the United States. It's just we don't tote it verbally as much. That's all about. You talk to a Canadian, say, hey, we're going to take your guns. They'll say, yeah, for my cold dead hands. So yeah, no, that's we're pretty pro gun here. If you were to listen to the CBC, you would say, oh no, everybody wants to ban guns in Canada. No, that's just a stupid CBC. Hence why they should be defunded, is because they're propagandists, right? I don't mind TVO, I don't mind CPAC. They can make a go of it. Why can't the CBC? But you see, the thing is when people start looking into the issue, and this is why they don't talk too much about gun control on the CBC here in Canada, is because it always backfires on them. People become more pro-gun. Why? They look into the statistics. It's even if you're the most anti-gun person on the planet, you look into the statistics. It is so clear. Which country was it? It might have been Panama. I think it was Panama. Is now like looking into like open carry or concealed carry or something like that, because they're looking at the statistics in the United States saying, well, pretty much anywhere people have the right to carry and defend themselves with firearms, the crime rate typically drops like 30 to 40% across the board. And anywhere like Chicago, where the gun laws are the strictest, the crime rate's the highest. And here in Canada in 2012, there was a peer-reviewed study that showed there was absolutely zero correlation between dropping crime rates and gun control. In fact, our crime rates still went down after we got rid of the long gun registry and got rid of the ATT, authorization to transport, our restricted. And the lefties are still out there saying we need more gun control, but our crime rate's still going down. Even though we got rid of like a handful of things. But as far as getting real liberty with the guns, such as get rid of ban by name, appearance, or reputation, I could even live with magazine restrictions if we had more rights on where we could use our firearms. For example, restricteds, if they're I do believe in caliber restrictions for hunting. I don't like the idea of somebody trying to take down a moose with a 22, that type of thing. Although it has been done, the native groups can get away with it, but most white men can't. But the thing is nobody should be allowed taking out moose with a 22. You know what I mean? That type of thing. So I do believe in like sensible things like that. Most people do. Safe storage laws, I say take them down from a misdemeanor than a criminal charge. So if somebody doesn't lock up their guns, I am for people locking up their guns if they're not around them, for sure, and storing the ammunition separate. That's just common sense. But if you're around it, okay, and you have a gun out, say you have a farming problem like me around here, we got all kinds of coyotes, skunks, and whatever have you roaming around. Sometimes you need a firearm out ready to go because you're never going to get into your gun locker fast enough to get it. So yeah, you have it out and you're allowed to do that. But when you're not around it, okay, as long as the ammunition's not out and about, I'm not too worried about that. But the thing is, legally, if you get caught doing that, if you have a firearm out unattended, you're liable for it, right? So I say, okay, well, give a guy a fine, don't seize his guns and throw him in jail. And that's the problem with, in Canada, every firearm offense is a criminal offense, not a misdemeanor. So we need to knock that down. The next one is banned by or barrel length restrictions. Get rid of all barrel length restrictions. There's no need for it. It makes no difference in the crime rate. And the last one, the one that I would fight for first over magazine capacity or anything, is the right to use all your firearms where it's safe to discharge your firearm, so that your handguns are not completely, like here in Canada, you pretty much can't use a handgun unless you're out of range. But why can't you go out in the bush with it and carry it for protection, bear repellent, that type of thing? It has no bearing on the crime rate in Toronto, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do this. It's just the left, using fearmonger, and it will have no effect on the crime rate or safety. I do believe in training courses because that has statistically proven to save lives, and I do believe in the right to self-defense with a firearm too, but with training. You don't need to be a Navy SEAL or Rambo or anything, but just some training, just kind of more of legal aspects of it, a little bit of hands-on practice of, how to respond with a firearm, and do's and don'ts, and the Americans have done so much work on right to carry and stuff like that. We could probably put a program together, and the government, I don't know why they don't do this, because they make so much money off of it, but they can use that money to say, put it towards like more policing or something like that, or better, whatever, women's shelters or what have you, right? So anyway, the bottom line is pretty simple. If we had somebody sensible in there, we could have sensible gun laws. I'm okay with the background check for liability purposes, but I would never try to lie to people and say it saves lives, because it doesn't. Gun registries, get rid of them. There's no need for them. They never needed them anyway, because the import logs are basically kept for every firearm that comes into this country. it registers to the store that sells it, and then from there, uh, if it shows up at a crime scene, it still magically has its serial number on it. From there, it basically they can track it back to who bought it. But that said, the only point of a gun registry is to ban guns. And as a Canadian, to all people around the world, including my American brothers and sisters, yes, if they're talking gun registry, they're talking gun ban, because that's how you find the guns, right? We ban one type of gun at a time, and you go pick it up. That's what they do here. That's what they've been doing here in Canada. Every year, they add more guns to the list, and they recently added the CZ858, which and the Swiss Sig 550-P90 to that list, and they gave it an amnesty. The Conservatives gave it an amnesty, and then they've undone it and restored the classification of those firearms to non-restricted and restricted from where they were, so that people like that, 13,000 people woke up criminals. They went to bed law-abiding citizens, woke up criminals. That would have doubled our prison rate, because a prohibited firearm is 10 years in jail, right? So that type of thing. So get rid of stupid stuff like that. But we're never going to get somebody sensible with what we have out there. We need like new blood in the system to actually advocate for rights. But anyway, great show, guys. Thank you very much for your comments, whether we agree, disagree. Always good to hear from you guys. So anyway, if you like this kind of content, please consider making a donation to the channel. Links down below. Thank you very much to everybody who has. Rate, subscribe, share, comment, like. Be true to yourselves, be true to others. Always doing the right thing, and have yourselves a great day.
$1,000 rounds.
Hey, hi, and welcome. Alright, Q&A 130. I can't believe I've done that 130 of these already. It's kind of late at night, so I have to keep my voice down, so hopefully you guys can hear me well. And today's date is the 13th of October 2015, and for those of you joining me for the very first time, this is just me responding to questions and comments I get on various different videos. Sometimes people agree with me, sometimes people disagree with me. Always love to hear what you guys have to say. I've never censored my comments. However, I have a huge apology. I have to, if you posted any video or comments on any of my videos on October 13th, which is today, I done something really stupid accidentally. I had about 101 comments that I had to approve, and for some stupid reason, rather than hitting approved, I hit delete. Don't ask me how I did it, but when you check the box, it checks them all, and then you have the option of post or delete. And I don't know why I thought the error was over post, and I hit it. So if you made a comment today, the making of this video, or on the 13th of October, and you can't find your comment, oops, sorry, my bad. So I really apologize for that, because that's the first time I've ever done that. So right now, I want you to envision the from the Muppets, the guy playing the piano, hitting his head against the piano keys, going stupid, I'll never get it. Well, that's me today, so I'm really sorry for that. But anyway, let's just jump right into this. Not very long ago, I googled World War III updates, found your site. Oh, really? Cool. And have been watching your videos ever since. Just a couple of things for now. One common mistake is using the word troop, as it has the same meaning as soldier, i.e. saying 150,000 troops have been sent to Syria, when actually meaning 150,000 soldiers. A troop is a military term for a pack of soldiers acting in a group. Though you might thought you might like to know. Well, that's good. I didn't know that. So next one goes, I will try sending you a couple of bucks soon. Well, thank you. Best regards. Well, thank you very much. Next one goes, even if we were talking rebels, so what? Putin said in one of his speeches, Russia is going to protect their national interests. That is true. Again, Russia is calling NATO's bluff. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Next one goes, and again, right now there's a new rebel group. Well, there's no new rebel groups in Syria. This is CNN blowing bullshit up your ass again. Basically, saying new rebel groups. I mean, there's 1,000 freaking jihadi groups or more in Syria, let alone new ones, right? So what they're saying is we're arming this new group that we just found out of nowhere. But they are arming the Kurds, which again I think is going to be bad for Turkey in the long run. But you know, again, has the State Department made any good decisions in the past 50 years? I don't think so. You know, like, God, they can't even get that right, right? But anyway, yes, the weapons that were dropped off a couple of nights ago from the making of this video was 4 heavy lift transport airplanes, and it was 50,000 tons of munitions that they dropped off from 4 aircraft. And apparently it did get to the Kurdish fighters, but God knows where they're going to end up, because what happens is they drop it to the guys they want, but then those guys just hand it over to ISIS. Now, in the sense of the Kurds, no, they're not fighting Assad, but they are fighting ISIS. But that said, there's groups that there's groups that are regionally in like small towns. Again, it's all tribal over there, right? The whole Middle East is tribal. You got thousands of tribes there, and there's a lot of small places that are fighting their own interest, right? They're fighting for. There's like one group that the U.S. is got on the terrorist watch list, and it's a union group that they got on a terrorist watch list, and they're giving them weapons. So it's like, but they're not fighting Assad, they're fighting ISIS. So there are jihadi groups that are fighting amongst each other, but it just happens that ISIS is the main catalyst of groups, or the main like gluing the main jihadists together. So yeah. So anyway, yeah, there we go. Hi, I'm a viewer from Russia. I like your channel. And you are a good thinker. I have to say there is no difference between Western people and us. We listen to the same music, watch the same movies, hard work, and buy nice stuff. Respect our ancestors and love our families. Russia has have difficulty history. We started like our European countries, but then with Asia, then with Asian culture for many years. Got revolutions and got bloody civil war. WW2 for us is a great sacrifice. Millions lost their life. I think something like 26 million in Russia died in World War II. Lost their lives, and it's hard to find family that don't have the oldest fourth in it. Today we live in a modern country, and we are proud of our history. If Westerns thinks we are evil and our decisions are wrong, the funny thing is that we think the same things about you. My attitude to President Putin as a sportsman, for example, a football team playing well, then I am satisfied. If then it is time to change the player, if not, then it is time to change the player. Since I am satisfied with my current situation, work, income, social status, my team plays well, and hardly the view of the Western friends would change it. And yes, sorry for my English. Well, thank you very much there. I always like to hear how the other half lives. Again, if you're from any of these countries that I talk about, I'd love to hear from you. Everybody does, because it's nice to hear from the guy on the ground, right? But the thing is, yeah, you have to understand right now, the red terror scare is off the charts on not so much on Canadian media, but on American media. They take every stab they can at Russia. They're trying to make Russia the new villain, right? And again, I have issues with Putin, don't get me wrong, but if you look at all sides of it, yeah, Putin has been a hell of a lot better than Boris Yeltsin. Yeah, a good time. He was a good player change, so to speak. But that said, like Putin could probably lighten up on, say, protests. Granting people the right to protest a little more without those stupid permits. Now, mind you, we have, we have permits here in the sense of zoning when you're going to have your protest, where you're going to have it, just so the police can be out there. But you can go out there and protest. You can protest anywhere if you're not blocking traffic or whatever. You can protest here in Canada, no problem. Where the problem comes in is if you're going to take up like the whole street, then you need to kind of zone out just so nobody gets run over. So it's a safety issue, but it's never an issue of, okay, well, what is it you're protesting? What's your content or anything like that? So that type of stuff, yeah, Putin could call it. If he were to relax on that, his approval rating would go even higher. Obviously, Putin isn't Stalin or Khrushchev, so yeah, you guys got a lot better than what you did, a couple of generations before. But that said, you know, like all the leaders in the world have